Welcome to this explainer. We're diving straight into something absolutely massive today. How AI is fundamentally rewiring reading, writing, and, well, the very concept of human creativity itself. We're living through a real technological earthquake right now. Generative AI, especially large language models, isn't just a new way to search the web. It's totally flipping the script on literary production and education. So let's unpack exactly what happens when artificial intelligence collides with the humanities. Let's kick things off with a huge philosophical question. Can a machine with zero memory, no intention, and absolutely no lived experience actually create literature? Historically, we've always treated literature as this uniquely human thing, right? It's all about consciousness, emotion, the messy human experience. The idea of an intentional human author is literally the bedrock of how we've taught and read texts for centuries. But now, machines are getting unbelievably good at mimicking human styles. So if an AI writes a narrative that genuinely moves you, does that count as literature? To kind of wrap our heads around this, listen to this AI-generated excerpt. There is a silence in the room, as if the walls withdrew. I mean, wow, it perfectly mimics Emily Dickinson. It hits the irregular capitalization, the slant rhymes, the domestic vibes, the whole shebang. But here's the catch. When researchers actually put this under the microscope, they realized it completely lacks the subtextual tension of true poetry. It's purely mimetic. It's just predicting syntax, not taking an emotional risk. Researchers actually call this synthetic creativity. So, to navigate this huge paradigm shift, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting 5 key areas: the death of the author, AI as a literary detective, the AI-powered classroom, hallucinations and ethical collisions, and finally, the future of co-creation. All right, part 1, the death of the author. To really get what AI is doing right now, we actually need to take a quick detour into the past. Back in 1967, the literary theorist Roland Barthes dropped a bombshell essay arguing for the death of the author. He basically said, hey, once a text is written, the author's personal intent doesn't matter anymore. It's the reader who actually constructs the meaning. And honestly, if the human author is already theoretically dead, that perfectly sets the stage for a machine to step in. AI texts don't have a conscious author behind them, but they're loaded with language patterns for us to interpret. It's literally the exact dislocation of authority Barthes was talking about decades ago. This gives us a really helpful mental map. Whether we look at AI through post-structuralism, post-humanism, or the digital humanities, it totally fractures the idea of a lone genius creator. Like under post-structuralism, thinkers like Michel Foucault remind us that authorship is mostly about assigning ownership. So, who owns an AI text? You? The programmer? The bot? Or take post-humanism. Thinkers like N. Catherine Hales argue that cognition, thinking, is distributed. It's not just happening in our brains. It's happening across networks of humans and machines. So AI isn't replacing the author. It's just expanding what the word author even means. Moving on to part 2. AI as literary detective. What happens when we flip the script and use AI not to write, but to analyze? By pointing natural language processing tools at classic literature, researchers are spotting macroscopic patterns that a human could literally never map out alone. Think about it. Trying to chart the exact emotional highs and lows of every single chapter across 200 Victorian novels by hand? No way. But algorithms can use sentiment analysis, named entity recognition to track characters, and topic modeling to find hidden themes in seconds. It's like having a superpower for reading. And the results are fascinating. Computational analysis can actually put hard numbers to the vibes we instinctively feel when we read. For example, when Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice is fed into an AI, it mathematically maps out as a comedic arc with a steadily rising positive sentiment. But run George Orwell's 1984 through the exact same system, the data shows a massive, plunging decline in sentiment that perfectly matches its dystopian nightmare tone. The AI is literally providing statistical proof for our human interpretations. Okay, part 3, the AI-powered classroom. Let's step out of the classic novels and into the modern university to see how this changes learning. A massive, systematic review of research from 2023 to 2025 reveals that AI in education is a truly global paradigm shift. The data shows us that Asia and Europe are actually leading the charge on empirical research here. Countries like China and Saudi Arabia are right at the bleeding edge of figuring out how to bake generative AI into language learning and academic composition. So this isn't just some localized fad. Figuring this out is a top priority worldwide. And what's happening on the ground in these classrooms? Students are completely rebuilding their toolkits. The writing process is shifting from this solitary, often frustrating struggle into a back-and-forth dialogue with AI. They're using it to brainstorm ideas, draft and translate, enrich their vocabulary, and, this is key, get instant, formative feedback on their grammar and structure. Studies actually show that when students use it correctly, it lowers their anxiety and boosts motivation. It turns writing into a real, active collaboration. Which brings us to part 4, hallucinations and ethical collisions. Because as you might guess, plugging AI straight into the academic process is definitely not without its speed bumps. Here is a huge reality check. These language models can sound incredibly confident, right? But they frequently hallucinate facts. Recent studies looking at ChatGPT 4.0 found that a staggering 46% of the bibliographic references it generated simply did not exist. Just entirely fake. That is a massive red flag for academic research if you're blindly trusting the output. It really highlights why we desperately need what researchers are calling critical AI literacy. We absolutely have to teach people how to spot check and evaluate this stuff. And it gets deeper than just fake links. Because these models are trained on historical, opaque datasets, they can really flatten out complex realities. One academic paper actually labeled it an automated mansplaining machine, which is pretty funny, but also kind of hits the nail on the head. The AI's worldview is intrinsically linked to its training data, which often lacks diverse voices. If we aren't careful, we run the real risk of homogenizing language and just reinforcing old biases. Let's head into our final section, Part 5, the future of co-creation. So, with all these incredible tools and massive ethical hurdles, how do we balance human ingenuity with artificial intelligence? It really boils down to the difference between imitation and creation. AI is phenomenal at simulating the structure of literature. It runs on statistical probabilities, syntax, and recognizing patterns. But human creation, that comes from lived experience. It comes from cultural ideology and a deep emotional necessity to say something. We write because we feel compelled to. AI writes because it's calculating the next most likely word in a sequence. But hey, that absolutely doesn't mean AI is useless for creativity. Remember N. Catherine Hales and the theory of distributed cognition? We are officially entering an era where authorship is a hybrid process. The AI can build the scaffolding, give us stylistic variations, and brainstorm 100 ideas a minute. But the human? The human provides the ethical boundaries, the actual intent, and the authenticity. It's a shift from the lone genius to networked generativity. Ultimately, AI is an evolution of literary tools. Think of it like the invention of the printing press or the typewriter. It fundamentally changes the medium. But I love this quote from software engineer Ellen Ullman. A program can simulate a life, but it can never live one. AI simulates meaning. It doesn't experience it. As readers and creators, the responsibility to bring the soul to the text is entirely on us. Thank you so much for joining this explainer. It's pretty clear that generative AI isn't killing creativity, it's just asking us to redefine it. I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on about our shared future of human and non-human creativity. In an era of algorithmic authorship, is it the machine that defines the text or the ethics and imagination of the human guiding it? Think about that, stay curious, and we'll catch you in the next one.